I would like now to give the floor to our second speaker from South Africa, actually, in this session, Hannelie Nel, who is a senior lecturer, postgraduate School of Engineering and Management at the University of Johannesburg in South Africa. And she will talk about leadership and agency by women engineers in South Africa. We very much look forward to listening to you, Hanni. The floor is yours for 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Joost, and good afternoon, Dr. Rao and your team, colleagues, UNESCO Chairs from across the world. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can, but we can't see you. Would you like to turn on your camera? As you wish.
Okay, I'll continue and I'll do it a bit later. Thank you. My name is Hannelie Nel, colleagues, and I am a senior academic from the University of Johannesburg in South Africa. Thank you so much for the opportunity to participate in this landmark and significant event today. It is a true privilege to be here. I'm going to share with you today findings from research that I conducted over a few years titled Leadership and Agency by Women Engineers in South Africa. More than 50% of our population in Africa are women, and we'll see the data shows that only 6 to 11% of the engineering workforce in the world are women. 60% of graduating engineers are retained in the profession. Women still earn 20% less income in a lifetime than men do. The loss of income in the UK is £2 billion per annum due to women who leave the profession. And only 2% of female academic staff in higher education are professors. The research objective of the work was to determine the reasons for the low number of women engineers in leadership and management positions in South Africa. The World Economic Forum published the Global Gender Gap Report in 2021, which showed that women still represent only 27% of all managerial and leadership positions. Early projections from the International Labour Organization suggest that 5% of all women employed lost their jobs during COVID compared to 3.9% of employed men. And furthermore, LinkedIn shows a marked decline of women's hiring into senior leadership roles, creating a reversal of 1 to 2 years of progress across multiple industries. This research was qualitative action research, and what was employed to interview and engage with women in the technical sectors in South Africa to determine the challenges they experience in industry towards senior management and leadership positions. The research was conducted with women of the UJ Group 5 We Be Excellence in Engineering Awards, and the Women in Engineering in the Built Environment program was established to support, empower, and advance women in engineering and the built environment, and to raise awareness towards gender parity in companies. The work and the research was published in the book titled Leadership and Agency by Women Engineers in South Africa, and we had a few different discussions. We considered gender influence in engineering, gender equity. We looked at a fresh perspective on gender empowerment, the impact of culture on women engineers. We discussed the difference between femininity and feminism for women engineers. Is there a prospect of work-life balance for women in engineering? Why should young women study engineering? The future and retention of women engineers in the country. Some of the key findings were the following. Women do not assume leadership or senior management positions in the technical sectors in South Africa due to various reasons, including, amongst others, a lack of clear opportunity to progress to senior roles, the challenge of balancing professional and personal lives, lack of care facilities for children, and culture and gender discrimination in the workplace. Gender equality remains a low on the priority of a nation struggling to still find its identity, and remains second to racial discrimination, poverty, political gain, and violence. Gender empowerment for the engineers held more value than gender equity, with two themes emerging, namely power and growth, and power being the right and ability to make your own choices, and growth, the opportunity for personal and professional growth with equitable remuneration. Culture, let me just switch, see where I can switch on my video. Okay, there we go. Can you see me now? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Culture is a very powerful force in the South African economy, business, and family. South Africa still remains a patriarchal society where women are still more valued for their domestic role as homemakers and mothers than for their professional roles as businesswomen and engineers. In engineering, women find that feminism is an overjustification of female attributes, and it may aggravate situations where acknowledgement of being a woman is demanded or expected. Work-life balance is possible, but it requires significant and careful planning and thoughtful execution. Boundaries are often difficult to implement at work and at home. Professional and personal networks, support relationships and connections are vital for successful engineers. And investment in personal health, routine, and keystone habits are essential. The WEF report supports these findings in 2021 and states that the longer double shift during COVID, unpaid work in the context of school closures for women, limited availability of care services, all contributed to increase the stress and anxiety and maintaining a work-life balance amongst women. Gender gaps are more likely to become larger in sectors that require disruptive technical skills, with engineering representing 20% of that. The crisis has also accelerated automation and digitization, which will create significant challenges for gender parity in the future of jobs. Through these combined impacts of COVID, we are going to risk inferior re-employment prospects and a persistent drop in income, particularly for women in technical sectors. So in response to these findings, one of the major recommendations, both from my research and from the World Economic Development Report, is that women can empower themselves through individual and collective agency. They provide a definition for that, but I'd like to highlight that women's collective agency both depends and determines their individual agency. What agency is a way for engineering women to demonstrate their leadership and self-actualization in their professions through continuous personal development. Women agree in South Africa that leadership through teamwork, transparent dialogue, practical example, hard work, effective communication can achieve successful projects and sustainable change. And leadership for women is inclusive, and we need to lead by example. The report again indicates recommendations for the future of women. The first is further investments into the care sector and into equitable access for care leave for both men and women. Policies and practices needed to proactively focusing on overcoming occupation segregation by gender. And then interestingly and really important, effective mid-career skilling policies combined with practices to embed sound, unbiased hiring and promotion practices will pave the way for a more gender equal future. Our work, and I'd like to highlight, is a follow-up on the book that we published, with Dr. Michelle Kruger published, and I'm the co-publisher, The Development of Young Women and Young Professionals in STEM Careers, published in 2018. And she is planning a follow-up on this book. And we have recently established a sub-Saharan research group for women in engineering to create networks in Africa, combining South Africa, Botswana, Mauritius, Namibia, and Zambia. And as we continue that network will grow. These are some of the recommendations from the research as well, and I'd just like to highlight a few. For the individual, the networking, mentorship, and role models is so important. Government and governance, policies, agency, and legislation is critical. For companies, equal remuneration remains a serious challenge in engineering. Flexible time, equal access to information, which is a challenge in Africa and South Africa. And then on and off ramps, which also confirmed the report by the WEF. From school level, we need more gender sensitive curricula. If you look at the curricula in South African primary schools, secondary schools, very little addresses young girls in those curricula, and they also need role models in the technical space. From industry, the informal programs where women can exercise their agency, we have a few in South Africa, but also to recognize and reward women who are excellent in their roles. Academia, only 2% of women in academia in technical professions are professors, so certainly need more of those. Higher remuneration because women often leave, they expect that they would find work-life balance in academia, but often it's not the case, and then family care as well. And that is the end of my. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you. I hope I get to the time.
Thank you so much, Hannelie, for your time. I really appreciate that, but that's not the purpose as such. But I think this provides sort of a deepening of the presentation by your colleague earlier today.
Yes.
So it's nice and complementary, and you take a few elements. We haven't spoken about education yet, but one of the points that you raised is about a gender-sensitive curricula and education. I think this is a problem we see in many places, and I think it would be a very good starting point. And I think this is a topic on which Amachi also and the chair in India has been working quite a lot. So that is good that we just take out that element. It's very relevant.
Thank you. Yes,
So
thank you for the opportunity.